Today we're going to review a 2015 movie called Too Late. You can call it an independent film, or so they say. It's a pretty good movie. It's about a private eye movie, a throwback to the 1970s strangeness. John Hawkes plays the lead character, a private investigator with musical talents. His name is Mel Sampson. The interesting part of this film is how it was shot. It was shot in 35 millimeter in 22-minute uncut takes. Again, no cuts or editing in the 22-minute take. And there's 5 of them. There's 5 22-minute uncut takes. To achieve this effect, they use a super zoom lens in and out. It's pretty cool. The film bounces back and forth, but it's all tied together nicely. And not long into the flick, you start to realize that this is an attempt at recapturing the magic of the 1973 The Long Goodbye classic, but in a pulp fiction format created for the modern day hipster consumption. Well, the movie starts off kind of slow. They're up on a hill overlooking LA. For the first 7 minutes, you got nothing but hipster drug dealer banter. I mean, we're talking about two morons, Dumb and Dumber. I mean, it's kind of boring. But it picks up when the young girl meets a serial killer. You see, the two morons give her an ecstasy pill. And they take off. They got a meeting. But they plan on coming back to see the little girl. But when they get back, the little girl's dead. And they think that their ecstasy pill killed her. And like I said, they're not too bright. But the actual killer is this psychopath here who likes to strangle girls from the orders of his old man. That will be Jeff Fahey. You'll see Jeff Fahey later. He's involved in the strip club operations. They're sort of like mobsters. So these two morons here, when they find a dead girl, they take off running like little girls. And then comes the star of the show, the main character. That would be Mel Sampson. He shows up in his 1980s Trans Am, and because she called him. The girl called Mel earlier, and like I said, he's a little too late. Now you know how the name of the movie got created. He's about 5 or 10, maybe he's 15 minutes too late, and his daughter is dead. Or should I have said that? Why don't we go back to the beginning of the movie for a moment? Something to think about. When Sampson gets into his 1980 Trans Am, he always pulls down the visor, probably looking at something. Is it a habit, a routine, or a ritual to always look at your sun visor when you get into the car? Well, you'll figure that out later on in the movie. It's pretty interesting. Now remember, I said in the beginning that this movie was based on 5 different segments, 22-minute uncut segments. And they go back and forth, almost like in pulp fiction format. Remember what I said, that this movie was attempting to recapture the magic of the 1973 The Long Goodbye, but it was in pulp fiction format, and it was created for modern day hipster consumption. And I'll bring up some of the reasons why I believe that. And one of the reasons I think that is how Sampson, the main character, tries to keep continuity with that cigarette during the whole film. We'll talk about the Elliot Gould connection later. So segment 2, he ends up at the stripper owner's house. The strip club owner's house. His wife is mentally unstable. Here she is. And you'll notice the 2 big actors there, Jeff Fahey and Robert Forster. Nice little cameos. Robert Forster tells his ex-stripper wife that I don't really like that dress. Why don't you get something more appropriate? Well, she goes ballistic, mental. She's in an unhappy marriage, okay? And of course, this is segment 2, and private investigator Mel Sampson wrecks his car in front of their house, probably on a pretext to get into the house, because he rings the doorbell, says, "I just wrecked my car, let me in." But what he's really come in to do is talk to these guys, which he thinks are responsible for killing the girl. The girl's name was Dorothy Mailer. See, the whole plot revolves around the murder of Dorothy Mailer, which Samson has a connection to, which I kind of spoiled that earlier. Oh, there's one part I missed. It might be important. When Samson rings the doorbell to the house, he basically, he said he wrecked his car. He needs to make a phone call, and they let him in. But he develops a sort of, a liking for the lady there. He knows, he feels her pain. She's a lost soul, and he basically says, "Oh, let me take you away from this mess." And the scene I like there was where she says, the troubled young lady tells Samson, "You're a hopeless romantic, aren't you?" Which is kind of a requirement for these noir-esque filmography pieces. Okay, the segment 2 is pretty good, so let me throw in some more script there. Samson tells the young lady, "Stick around, you might want to hear what your husband does for a living." And she says, "I already know what he does for a living." But he said, "Well, let's set it to music. 3 days ago, I stepped in some gum and I started asking questions. So I punched some people in their fat faces. I threatened various kneecaps with blunt objects. And I even several times pulled my piece out." And anyhow, it's pretty good dialogue, and I thought I would just throw it in there. Oh, and actually, there's another piece of interesting dialogue from that segment. Samson is directing this towards Jeff Fahey's character there, who directs his son to go snap girls' necks. And he says, "Oh, yeah, when I was your age, boy, I was snapping 3 necks a week for $1.25 an hour." Little sarcasm there. Well, as you can imagine, segment 2 of this movie does not end well for a few characters. And then we go off to segment 3. 22-minute uncut segment, as I've said before. It starts out with a little eye candy. We're at the strip club, little strip club action, and this is where P.I. Mel Sampson has an encounter with the dead girl. Remember, it goes back and forth. The dead girl's name is Dorothy Mailer, and here she is, okay? So you don't really know why he's there, but he's actually there for a reason. And he has a moment, or he has a night with this lady. I mean, nothing sexual, but they have their night. This is a good time to talk about the cigarette. Now, if you've never seen the 1973 classic, The Long Goodbye, with Elliot Gould in there, a PI, noir type movie. If you've never seen that, then you're not going to understand what I'm talking about. But Elliot Gould, he likes to joke. What was his job in that movie? His job was basically he tries to make continuity with the cigarette all through the movie. And I see a similarity in this movie where Samson is doing the same thing. It seems like he's trying to make continuity with that damn cigarette all through the movie. And the last scene is the kicker. That's for later. And of course, in this segment, we also get to see Jelly Bean. Jelly Bean is introduced. She's quite a character in this movie. She's one of my favorite characters. And one of the interesting dialogues in this segment, is where Samson tells Jelly Bean, "Don't be so hard on yourself, kid. Your face is an acquired taste, but I'm getting used to it." I really like that one. From there, we jump to segment 4. It starts off with stripper Jelly Bean going from the strip club to now she's running the projector, and she's also the ring card girl at boxing matches, and she's also cleaning out the toilets at all of this at the drive-in. And there she is at the drive-in. She's running the projector. Now, this is pretty interesting because this film was also made in 35 millimeter. So it's sort of ironic that they would have a scene there where she's at the drive-in actually running the projector for 35 millimeters. Of course, the reason we're here is because here's a scene with her as the ring card girl. It's kind of strange. As their drive-in movies going on, they got boxing matches, and then she goes to clean out the toilets. She's also selling the popcorn. But like I said, it's all pretty crazy stuff. Here she's the ring card girl, and here she is cleaning out the toilet. In many ways, this segment is even better than segment 2 in my mind. Maybe I just like to see Jelly Bean cleaning out the toilets. So why is Samson there? It turns out that the psycho killer who likes to strangle girls, he's there to kill Jilly. And we don't, Jilly doesn't know that. Again, here's another look at him. He's looking at the 35 millimeter film, and they made this movie out of 35 millimeter. You gotta love it. As the script progresses, he enlists Jillybean to help him capture the bad guy. And here he has the bad guy. And there's some pretty good script here, so I'll read it to you. He catches the bad guy, and he says, this is what he tells him. He says, "Make a wrong move, and I'll shoot you in the kidney, and I'll dig the bullet out with my dirty hands for a souvenir." Yeah, I like that one. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to no spoilers here, but interesting scene. And in a surreal, strange way, that segment is actually the end of the movie, but then we go off to segment 5, and segment 5 ties it all together. This is where the private investigator Sampson meets Grandma and Mary. Mary's the mother of the girl who died, and they're going to hire Sampson to find the girl. Yes, this segment 5 ties it all together. It's heartbreaking. It's really kind of a sad, as you can see by the face of the Mother Mary. It's a sad part. After telling the mother the bad news, he leaves the hotel room, and as he's leaving the hotel, guess what? The two moronic, hipster, idiot drug dealers are there following him, and they're going to, try to kill him. They reappear here in the last segment. They think, again, I'll remind you, they think they need to snuff out Sampson because he might know that they killed the girl, when in fact they did not kill the girl. I mean, we're just talking about Dumb and Dumber here. So we'll close this review out with a similarity. Remember, I was talking about the 1973 classic, The Long Goodbye. Remember the scene in The Long Goodbye where Elliot Gould, a.k.a. Philip Marlowe, gets hit with a car. He's chasing the girl, he gets hit with a car, but if you remember that movie, he still manages to keep his cigarette in his mouth. Voila, he got hit with a car, and he still kept that cigarette in his mouth. And voila, our PI character here, Sampson, he gets shot, but he jumps up, and it did not kill him, but here's the thing, he still manages to keep the cigarette in one piece. Okay, just some similarities there. Is this film going to become a cult PI classic? Kind of doubtful, but it is a very good experiment in filmography. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 bravos. It's really a good movie.